Welcome back, everyone, and say hello to Miss Chippy. I'm just kidding, that's not her name. My cat's name is Mia. I named her after Miyamoto Musashi. Miss Chippy is the cat that was aboard the Endurance a long time ago. And yes, today we are going to be talking about South by Ernest Shackleton and why you should read it if you haven't already. This book was released in 1919, a long time ago. This expedition happened over 100 years ago now. This book runs approximately 368 pages long. It's a harrowing tale. I can't wait to talk about it today. First, I want to give you guys a couple words on the man himself, Ernest Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton was a polar explorer whose name became synonymous with courage, resilience, and extraordinary leadership during the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. Born in County Kildare, Ireland in 1874, Shackleton was drawn to the sea from a young age, joining the merchant navy at 16. He quickly rose through the ranks, but his true calling emerged when he joined Robert Falcon Scott, who I'll mention later in today's video, Discovery Expedition to the Antarctic in 1901. Shackleton's innate ambition drove him to lead his own expeditions, including the Nimrod expedition, which set records for reaching within 97 miles of the South Pole. However, it was the Endurance expedition, 1914 to 1917, that would define his legacy. Shackleton's unyielding leadership during the catastrophic loss of their ship and the crew's subsequent survival through 2 years of unimaginable hardship immortalized him as a figure of inspiration and determination. Knighted in 1909, Shackleton's life was one of boundless ambition and ceaseless exploration, though his later years were marked by financial struggles and health issues. He died in 1922 while preparing for another Antarctic journey, leaving behind a legacy of heroism that endures to this day. So, Ernest Shackleton is one of my personal heroes. He's somebody who I look up to, and a big reason is because of this book that he wrote from his own diaries and the diaries of his fellow crew members. And it's a harrowing tale. It's probably the most inspirational nonfiction book I have ever read in my life. And that's saying a lot. I've read a lot of nonfiction in my life. And to me, there's no story that I've ever come across that is this inspirational to me. There's one quote here on the back that I really, really like. It's my favorite quote from the book. I'll read it off for you guys here. "We have seen God in his splendors, heard the text that nature renders. We reached the naked soul of man." The way that this is written is just absolutely brilliant. Ernest Shackleton has definitely a knack for writing. It's a little bit dry, I will say. It is kind of a memoir, so you're getting just kind of the facts relayed to you in great detail, which I love. And it's exciting, exhilarating to read, but it is a little bit dry. There's no like hopping back and, oh, this reminds me of a time in my childhood when I was a boy. Like, there's none of that stuff. This is a very straightforward book, but it is exhilarating. I don't usually say books will keep you on the edge of your seat because that's usually a term that I would reserve for film, maybe music. Usually you say a book is a page turner if it's interesting, but there's something about this book that is exhilarating. It's very, very exciting. It gets your blood pumping, especially towards the end of the book. So I'm going to read you guys a quick synopsis, a little summary of what this book is about, and then I'll give you guys some additional reading and maybe some films that would pair well with it. South is Ernest Shackleton's masterful account of the Endurance expedition, a journey that began as a quest to cross the Antarctic continent, but turned into one of the most awe-inspiring survival stories in history. In vivid poetic prose, Shackleton recounts how his ship was trapped and destroyed by crushing ice, leaving him and his crew stranded in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. What unfolds is a saga of relentless endurance, unparalleled leadership, and a profound will to survive against impossible odds. With breathtaking descriptions of the Antarctic's stark beauty and brutal hostility, Shackleton brings readers into the very heart of his men's struggles, capturing their ingenuity, camaraderie, and resolve. This is not merely a tale of adventure, but a timeless ode to the human spirit, offering a gripping meditation on courage, perseverance, and the bonds that are formed in the crucible of adversity. So yeah, needless to say, this is the most inspiring book that I've ever read in my life. It's so inspiring, in fact, that NASA used it with its Apollo astronauts. The crew of Apollo 11 studied this book. They studied Ernest Shackleton. It makes a lot of sense. The age of space exploration kind of mirrors the heroic age of Antarctic and Arctic exploration. So I thought that was an interesting fact. Another interesting fact is the Endurance ship itself, the one that got crushed and fell to the bottom of the ocean. It was actually recently discovered. So just in 2022, they were able to find this ship. And I found that quite interesting. It was a very, very difficult ship to find, apparently. There's a brilliant documentary kind of detailing that out that came out last year in 2024. I'll mention it in a second here when I mention some other films that I think go well with this book. But one last thing that I want to mention while we're on the subject of Mr. Ernest Shackleton is he has another book. In case you guys want to read both of his works, he has another one called The Heart of the Antarctic that was released in 1909. So if you're a completionist and you want to read everything from Ernest Shackleton, you can go check that one out as well. A couple books that I would recommend that pair well with this one. The first being Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage by Alfred Lansing. That's just a perfect companion book to go along with it. This can be, like I said, dry at times. It's kind of a memoir, so it's very cut and dry, and it's just the facts. So if you want something that's a little bit more narrative, a little bit more modern in its writing, I would highly recommend checking out Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage. Another one that I would recommend checking out if you're kind of into this kind of heroic age of Antarctic exploration is The Worst Journey in the World by Apsley Sherry Garrard. I'm definitely butchering that name, but that's what we do here on this channel. We butcher names, so I apologize. But this one covers the Terra Nova expedition, which was the expedition of Robert Falcon Scott, who I mentioned earlier. Now, Ernest Shackleton was not on that voyage, maybe for the better, because it wasn't as successful, to say the least. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but definitely go check that book out. For films, there's a couple films that I think pair beautifully with South. First being South from 1919. I showed some of the pictures earlier on screen of that the photographer took on that expedition, but he also brought a movie camera and he took some film footage. So it's free on YouTube. You guys can go search it up. Just search up South 1919 and it should be one of the first things that pops up for you there on YouTube. Another film that I think pairs beautifully with this, I just mentioned the Terra Nova expedition. So The Great White Silence is another film that I think is fantastic. To me, it's one of, if not the greatest documentaries ever made. It came out in 1924 and it's just brilliant. It is a silent film, so you got to read the cards that pop up. But you watch it and you would never think that that was shot in the 1910s. It looks beautiful. It's gorgeous to watch. Throw it up on a big screen, sit through it. Your heart will be pounding towards the end. Trust me, I know it's a silent film, but towards the end, it really gets intense. And I love The Great White Silence. It's one of my favorite documentaries of all time. And it's also free on YouTube. There's no excuse to not go watch it right after this video. So another one that I would recommend is Shackleton from 2002. It's a detailed TV miniseries starring, again, we're going to butcher some names, Kenneth Branagh. I know this guy, and I've seen him in like 50 films, but I can never say his name properly. I apologize. And then also Endurance from 2024. That is the documentary that I just mentioned previously. So that one covers, it kind of goes back and forth between the discovery of the Endurance ship and telling the story of Shackleton's voyage. So it kind of cuts back and forth. It's brilliant. It's on Disney Plus if you guys have that. And the last kind of film, this is a TV show, so it's not really a film, but the last one that I'll mention today is The Terror. This has nothing to do with the Antarctic. In fact, it has to do with the crossing of the Northwest Passage. And it happened, the Terror expedition, it was the Terror and another ship. I'm forgetting the name of the other ship, but I'll put it on screen right now. But these two ships set out in the early 1800s. So this is almost 100 years before Shackleton's expedition. And this story, if you want like the most gruesome, the most dark, the most dismal exploration story you've ever read, it's got to be the Terror expedition. It's horrifying. There are 10 times as many men on this expedition. And as far as we know, like none of them came back alive. and some of them might have been eaten by polar bears. The TV series from 2018, The Terror, is a fictional it's a fictional telling of that story, but I think it's fantastic. It's got this amazing cast, phenomenal cast, all of the greatest British actors that you can never remember their names. They're all in that show, and they all do an amazing job. And for the most part, they get it pretty right. I've seen some historians break it down and pull some things apart, but for the most part, they get it pretty right. They get it pretty close to the facts. So I loved that TV series, and it was shot in a way that kind of felt like a horror film. Like it had that suspenseful quality to it, which just made it so engaging. And I really, really liked that one. So go check out The Terror if you haven't watched it already. Go check out the 4 other films that I mentioned, a couple documentaries in there, a mini-series. And yeah, definitely read South because, whoops, I have it upside down there. Definitely read South because, like I said, it's the most inspiring nonfiction book that I've ever read in my life. And I think the world would be a better place if more people have read this book. So yeah, I wanted to share my love for this one today. I just reread it recently and I was blown away again on reread. It's just such an amazing story. It's so harrowing and it inspires you. It gets you going. So yeah, that's all I have for today, guys. Definitely let me know which book I should cover next in this series down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.